Sanganje Cheda Zoje Chonam La Chanjo Bado Dane Kyaso Age Chugurun Jive Sonam Je Dola Penche Sanje Dovara Sho Sanganje Cheda Zoje Chonam La Chanjo Bado Dane Kyaso Age Chugurun Jive Sonam Je Dola Penche Sanje Dovara Sho Sanganje Cheda Zoje Chonam La Chanjo Bado Dane Kyaso Dage Chugin Jive Sonam Dola Penche Sanje Dovara Sho Ola so majona ke tada ni singe tamji tendo sojala na me bayanda ba zobe sanji kumparo me kindi tobra shago ke tobra shawi chedo tambe choyoro mo je senya be kolon shanju je semji tse sembe gon sempre hyo.
Let us cultivate a good motivation. We should strive to accomplish complete enlightenment for the sake of liberating infinite, kind, mother sentient beings. And it's with that kind of altruistic, or what we call bodhicitta motivation, that we should all participate in this teaching.
동에 내내 타르네 아 답이 공부하다가 캐도하네 딱 교진식이요래.
Let me also remind all of ourselves the purpose of cultivating spirituality or practicing Dharma. That is, all of us do not wish to have any kind of suffering and problem. We want to be freed from suffering for good. In other words, we are seeking a state which is completely free of suffering, and that state could be called liberation or nirvana, or also at a higher level called enlightenment.
말한 정말로 다 그야 가르고 그래서는 네버도 기부지고 아래 담 그야 가르서는 동해대 동이 주제도 그거 대장 아니 대 용하셔 발았다 아니 최고 토네 아니 좀마도 이게 다 중국에 돈다 줘야매 버네.
In other words, what I'm trying to say here is this. To put it very simply, we all want to be happy. We want to have peace, and so we need to create causes and conditions to be happy and to have peace. On the other hand, we do not want any kind of pain and suffering. So therefore, we need to stop suffering and get rid of its causes. Now, when we think of what is the best solution, if you will, or the method that we could have to fulfill our wishes, that is to be happy and have peace, and not to have any kind of suffering problem, then we do not find any other method that is effective and as good as cultivating spirituality or practicing Dharma. Because after all, we all know that we cannot buy happiness with money. We cannot, have peace, by becoming rich.
So that, 산지 점된들의 샴트신듯이 산지 점된들 소왔담나 산지 점된들 좀매요. 다 대면비양 인다 아니 기란부터 그 아니 소디보다 기본한테 소소랑 토네 마서바신이 야 예네 도신 반도신 다 샵게비나 좀매요 삼타 근데 삼통이었대 천이야 말이지.
As we seek happiness, peace, and goodness, we must not have this kind of thinking or a notion that if I take refuge in Buddha, complete enlightened being, or other holy beings, and if I pray to them, if I pray to meditational deities, well, maybe they might grant me happiness or they might give me the peace. Well, we cannot put the responsibility upon somebody else as if they will do all those things for us. We need to understand that we have individual and personal responsibility to create the causes, for happiness, for peace, and for goodness. It is through our own actions, it's through our own development and practice that we should be able to have happiness, peace, and goodness. We just cannot simply put our request to gurus, lamas, Buddhas, meditational deities, other holy beings, and as if they will do the job for us. They cannot.
수수 산재 점대들 다 얘기 전부요. 다가나 얘기지 교로 얘기는 다 어느 수수 샵자 가서 때래 아니 다 얘기 요구로 왔어. 얘기 요는 동의게 나와 메셔바 통들자니 들에 아니야 줘야 그 탑난 거로 왔어. 아니 대부도 집을 정말 거기가 제자 텐데 난 거로 왔어. 이나다 아니 가란초 돌다 그래서 그랬다 미망 돌도 만도 때비나 아니 대부도 집을 용케다 동의 용케다 슈보다 울보다 먼저 망보 휴지 통근도 왔듯 통화에 가르쳐는 소소 less than D1 그런 수용한테 나한테 하고 그랬어.
If others could, give us happiness, give us peace, and all of that, including Buddha, well, they would have done it long time ago. We all know that Buddhas and enlightened beings have infinite compassion and wisdom. They're always thinking about us. They really care for us. They sincerely wish us to be free from suffering for good and to have every kind of happiness. But the fact of the matter is that they cannot provide us peace and happiness. They cannot give those things as a gift to us. We need to earn, if you will, or we need to work for our own peace, happiness, and goodness. And I believe this is, the same thing that works with any, I would assume, in many spiritual traditions. Different spiritual traditions have different objects of refuge. But those in whom we take refuge, I feel that they should have compassion for us. Compassion meaning they should really care and wish us to be free from suffering. That being said, they have so much compassion for us, but they couldn't, liberate us from suffering by their actions. So we need to act. We need to do our practice. We need to liberate ourselves through their help from suffering and to find peace and happiness that we are seeking. Now, as we look around in our neighborhood and society, we find, so much, differences among ourselves. There are those who are extremely rich, there are those who are extremely poor, destitute, and so on. So where do all these differences come from? Provided that nobody wants to be poor, everybody wants to be rich, everybody wants to be happy, why there are so many unhappy people? Well, as we look underneath all these things, situational differences perhaps we may call them, is that each of us have created and accumulated different karma, le in Tibetan, different karmic actions. So these different karmic actions bring different positive and negative results. And so we experience the results of our own karma. So therefore, we should understand that all the good and bad experiences that we go through are related with our own karmic actions, and we have karmic responsibility to ourselves.
Kyulu kande chi ina ya kyulu kande chi ina ta manzu nyangba ina ta yinda kyulu kande chi ina ya ani yichi changba sheba changche ne susu ne a tabi kongpa sinda mindu ta debu de chiwo nga tu mabra kare isna dipong gedu she diwa pa panya ta gyo dugu ga tu mena yichi changba sheba ne tena susu le guya ka ani debu de chiwo nga ta hita khaburis.
As we know it from Buddhism or the Dharma very clearly, that as much as, as important as it is to cultivate faith and trust in enlightened beings and the Dharma or spirituality, but the trust and faith alone are not sufficient, adequate for us to be able to, be free from suffering and its causes, and to have happiness and its causes. Because that needs more than just faith and trust. And I believe that this would be true in the other spiritual traditions. Yes, as much as faith and trust have important roles to play in our spiritual development, but at the same time, we need to conduct our life properly. In other words, that we need to stop doing negative karmas or negative actions. We must do the positive actions. And so this is what we call purifying ourselves of negativities and accumulating positive actions. So it's through creating good karmas and through purifying bad karmas based upon faith and trust that we are able to grow spiritually and we are able to evolve spiritually and find the kind of happiness that we are seeking.
Da ane shayu da chulu kande chi ina ya susu shayu de ye che ta da ba sha ba ina da ga chang de gi san da ti chun de gi amar kare sana ko susu ne dungi le thaya ta debu yu ya ko ju de sa gur ma to ju me ban de bun jong san average.
Once more, I would like to emphasize the point that in any spiritual tradition, there is so much emphasis on, the role of faith and trust in the objects of refuge. Well, that is important. I acknowledge it. But having said that, faith in the objects of refuge or trust in the object of refuge alone is not sufficient or adequate to liberate us from the state of suffering. Why? Because scientifically speaking, if we keep on creating the causes of suffering, it does not really matter in some sense how much faith we have in the objects of refuge, because the causes of suffering will continue to bring suffering. So that is scientifically correct.
So that Anita Susu any Tabe compound toy shebalta, Karibu Sana, Ale Tambo Tevashe, any Twin Yambata, Tagana Yarango, Flosion in the law of the data, Tevata, the Yulani, turned out the Hakovich, turned the Hakosana, there about Yaboma Sam Tani, some Jurgen Butang. I tell you, any peta, no two memory, those in Hesona. And the Gomchen Tao, Gomchen Turba, the Samba, the Gombason, the song of the Kerosum, you are the Ton, any repairing patient in those in any, so any Tawada Tangi Chipikova Togu, your race, Song around to closer she has a kitchen which race, trailer.
So our goal is to become complete enlightened beings called Buddhas. In other words, complete enlightenment is our ultimate spiritual goal that we would like to accomplish. Now, how do we get there? What is the method or the approach that we should adopt, to be able to accomplish our ultimate spiritual goal. As I often emphasize and explain these things to you, in the Buddhist teachings, we talk about this integrated threefold approach. What are the threefold? If you ask, they are listening to teaching. That means you listen to the teachings given by qualified spiritual masters. And in today's, time, we might also say educate ourselves in spirituality or dharma. Now, the education can come through listening to teachings and also through reading dharma books. Okay? So education is so important because that's how we learn about things, including spirituality or dharma. Now, once we gain knowledge about dharma or spirituality through education, then the next thing is we need to contemplate the deeper meaning of dharma. So that takes a long time. We need to spend a long time contemplating, thinking about the true meaning of dharma. Now, through this kind of contemplation, when we are convinced, right, and we believe in the truth of the dharma, now we meditate on the ascertained meaning of the teaching. So this is what we call the threefold integrated approach: study or listening to teaching, contemplation, and meditation. Through this approach or the method, that we are able to cultivate three types of wisdom. Wisdom that arises from listening to teaching, or wisdom that arises through education, and wisdom that arises from contemplation or thinking, and the wisdom that arises through meditational practice. By way of cultivating these three types of wisdom and enhancing them, that we are able to reach a complete enlightened stage.
다 오늘 다 당부 놓으시고 다 알리 당부 퇴바샤발 알리 당부 응네 저기나 졸로 이게 로셔버시고 그래서.
So what is included in the education or the study is, of course, if you go down to the very basic, so to speak, the starting point, then we have to learn the particular medium of the study, whatever that language is. We need to learn to read and write, that particular language which captures, which is a vehicle or the medium to communicate spirituality or dharma.
Big tall, Tambogi, law Hebeshe. Law here's not anything that the Hebeshe. I think it's also Rangjonshiate, what's the race.
So in the case of us Tibetans, where do we begin? We have to begin learning our Tibetan language. We need to learn to be able to read Tibetan. So once we have gained proficiency in reading Tibetan, then, based upon our reading capabilities, we also develop our comprehension skills to be able to understand what we read. So that's how we gain the meaning of the text through reading.
다음은 산지기 최종계 전에 벽에 미싱도 가르쳐서 근데 아니 배 말한 쪽 아니 낭배 최대 아니 다 인지게 돌려서 제가 근데 인지가 되는 거 로트be 해버지 그거래서 인지가 로 배이다 막 해버지 인기대 로마 해는 때 기다 깔리 하고 그랬어.
Well, then you could ask them the questions. And then what about all other people who do not read Tibetan or who don't understand Tibetan? So what about them? Well, the answer to that question is people who do not read Tibetan because they are not Tibetan or, they do not have the ability to read it at least, this very time and the moment. Well, they might know any other languages. And so there are so many translations of Dharma from Tibetan into other languages, particularly English. Well, if they know English, so that means education or the study here means that you got to read. You got to learn that language, and you got to, read the Dharma in English or any other language, Vietnamese, Chinese, whatever, in the footnote.
So, 당하란 쪽에 최고 된다디 해고 가리나 된다기 해버셔발라 최 장바 말이다 가리나 된디 해버셔발라 문실을 뜨고 그래서 그래서 문실도 문다 책이 나빠도 해고 그래서
I think it works in any language system. To be able to understand meaning in a particular language, when we have to learn the basics, we have to learn the words, we have to learn about the verbs, and we have to learn about how the language is used and constructed.
So that so rank ali ke tholde lo hebatam tambu lo hebet hirake chambres.
So in other words, that whatever language we speak or we have learned, if the Dharma is provided in that language, then we should be able to read the literature in that particular language, on Dharma.
That thing is human base, and let's say the hair that law has on that thing about the hair, that the sound Congress.
So once we have learned to read, then the next level that we progress on to, or we try to move on to, is to comprehend what we are reading, to understand the meaning of what we are reading.
Sik Changbash Hebeshe, Tanda Sana Matona, and a Yuza and a Sik Heba Gangila, Tanda and making it Inchik Tola Yori, Peki Tola Yunguri, Keke Maboto and the Yunguras. City Debeshe, City Lab. Tanda Karizan Hako Messi at that name of China would do it. Mindy have it, Tanda Sana Matons at these Chevres.
Well, if we only learn to read, but we don't, learn or develop our skills to understand the meaning, comprehend the meaning, then it would be pretty much empty words. That could happen in any language, right? Somebody will, may be able to say the things in a particular language or read, certain words in a language, but then you ask the meaning. Now, what does that mean? What do you mean? Then, I don't know.
So that Sanjay Chutan to Yankee, Ane Tambo, the cake are in a big toy, called Lord Shabashi, Jolos hears not done that the never Shabbat here chambers.
So if one is interested in practicing or cultivating spirituality or Dharma, Buddha's teaching, then in whatever language that it is provided and that one knows, so first one need to learn how to read the literature on Dharma in that language and then try to understand the meaning of the readings.
That thing you'll Tujung Geshes and that you'll only some Jung Geshes Shevalata, then that the Yanni and the Sangutola Sound Tongoris.
So once, we learn things through education or study. In this particular case, we are talking about educating ourselves in Dharma, spirituality, Buddha's teaching. Then next thing is we need to contemplate, think about the deep meaning of the Dharma. And so that's how the first level of wisdom that arises from study or education, that leads us to develop the wisdom through contemplation or thinking.
No. That's Sanjay Churg and Tenda the third any Tangaranzo that may the Chodjobachi Chagoris.
So understanding the meaning of Buddha's teaching is really like it is like the best kind of, metaphorically speaking, to use an example, it's like the best medicine we could have.
That made the Sanjay Churg may ne correct me race that's how the Kebajangers.
So if Buddha's teaching is like the best medicine we could find, then we need to ask, what medicine is this good for? For what kind of sickness? What kind of illness?
That day any Tango Zaya command the Rike Maris, Yena Newman be Neta, and later Newman nature, that's it, the Mabazaya Chedris.
So when we say that Buddha's teaching is just like the best kind of medicine, we do not mean that, by practicing Buddha's teaching, then you will get rid of headache or stomach ache or any of that kind of sicknesses. But it is the best medicine in order to cure us of the sicknesses of delusions or negative states of mind, and also negative karmic actions, or what we call contaminated karmic actions.
And then you can need the say kids on and then goes the at social nasa down to Samalo that G mean irregulars.
So because Buddha's teaching or Dharma is the best medicine that can help us to counteract, to get rid of negative minds or delusions from within our mind, as well as negative karmic actions and contaminated karmic actions. But in the long run, we could also say that once we get rid of all the delusions and negative karmas, we will never get sick. So it is in that sense that Buddha's Dharma is also medicine for all kinds of ordinary sicknesses, including headache.
So that is it. So that any that the hairs and that the habits and the gammas mean the more habits and the gamma mean the social the pay say that name maybe chago was getting the driver main rang mean the zany name of a chago. So that Sanjay church the main race made the rang more habits and tell them zone. The Ranjuli Shabasha Gores, treat and that any Ranjuli Shabasha Gores.
Ordinarily speaking, when we are sick, we can go and buy the best medicine available in the market. Well, once we have the best medicine, unless we take the medicine, it's not going to do anything for us. Right? You could have the best medicine lying next to you, but you could be terribly sick, because that medicine cannot help us to be, to get well, because we are not taking the medication, So it is only by taking the medicine that we get better, and we become well. In the same way, first we need to educate ourselves really well in Buddha's teaching called Dharma. Now, once we understand it, then we really need to think a lot about Buddha's teaching. That is part of our practice. And we need to cultivate Buddha Dharma in our mind. We just like taking medicine. So it is through cultivating spirituality, it is through practice of Dharma, just like taking medicine, that we are able to get rid of our sickness of delusions. So what is meditation? Meditation is basically we are, familiarizing ourselves more and more for a long time, or developing more and more intimacy with the deeper meanings of Dharma. So that's what meditation is.
So that Sanjay Churata and Tawatan Shabata Gombas and the Regitak Sanguris, Sanguris.
Looking from another perspective, if you will, at Buddha Dharma or Buddha's teaching, we need to understand that there are these three key, components. One is we call tawa. What is the view of Buddha's teaching? That could be philosophical, or what we call the objective view or the subjective viewpoint. That is called tawa in Tibetan. What is the cheba? What is the behavioral conduct or the action or the practice, the action in Buddhism, cheba? And the third thing is, what is the meditation in Buddhism?
So that Tagum Shesu say I think about the Karasagor,
So we have to integrate those three things. We cannot separate them from one another. The view, the action, and the meditation. So all those three things should be combined or integrated with one another.
So that Shava number Thomas is an only to name Seji Yen, Nesse Mabel, Nesse Mashebashi, Rang Lunake, Lutang Mata, Yisum the Pay, Hitoki, Google.
So what does it mean, when we use the term called behavioral action or jeba in Buddhism. By action, what we mean is that we should see that our actions of body, speech, and mind, in other words, what we do physically, what we say verbally, what we think mentally, they do not harm any other sentient being. They do not hurt others' feelings. And so how does that work is only when we subdue our actions of body, speech, and mind, when we discipline our actions of body, speech, and mind, then we do not harm other beings.
No. Sorry, today's children is walking around. But you concentrate to me, okay? Don't see here. I like today. This is very nice here. Really. Oh yeah. So that it's not too good in the garage to share what they are with shepherds.
All of us who are practicing Dharma or who are interested in Dharma, all of us, should, behave properly in our everyday life. So that's what we call behavioral action. We should conduct our life properly.
And kuma makubashi me yenda saw my chewa medan kyung busi in saw my chevashi and then loy majibish that somebody so the yaboji tim the yabu song begin and then lose shaba the yabu younger.
So what do we really specifically mean when we say that we should conduct our life properly every day or behave properly? In a kind of a broader sense, what we're talking about is that physically, we should not harm anybody. The harm could include like killing someone. Now, killing could include killing fellow human beings, which is a really serious negative karma, and down to killing, smallest insects. So that is also taking somebody's life. So we must not kill. Yes, that is, that's how we behave properly through physical action. Also, we must not steal other things. In other words, like things which belong to other people, we should not take them without their permission. That's called stealing. Okay? So when we don't steal, then we are conducting our life properly through physical discipline or physical behavioral action. We should not indulge in sexual misconduct. In other words, that we should not have affairs with others' life partners, and so it is in that way that we are able to able to conduct our lives properly through physical action.
The look and it those in that so that and those some begin at that that is in the Karasagata Luigi Shava the Taki to what you go.
So in other words, if you do not kill, you do not steal, you do not fool around with others' partners or indulge in sexual misconduct, then we would say that your physical action is subdued.
Oh yeah. Tanga the shepherd cake chambers me mambo chilla. Mazu yours. Ranki would do the same rang same yaguris. Me mambo chilla and cut the avici that would jaguris. Then those in the Nanju dosing as a pevacho. So I that gambas on those my higris.
Now we also need to be mindful of our actions of speech. Tibetan elders have many good advices to give. One of which is we have a saying that when you are alone, you should look at your mind. You should just find out what you are thinking. But when you are with others, where you are at in a crowd, you should watch your mouth. Being mindful of your mouth.
So that Mark Shebatel Madaki Tanduzi, you are Karina, June, Chama, Siltu, Machel, Sendus and Tai, you are Yibuti any social and the Shavina, and the social Nati in any Shiwaki Regulamaris. So that Yibuti Yelma Yubasin Shavina, and the Yawujungaris. So the Nag Shabbat Yawujungaris.
Of course, there are many, harmful actions of speech or negative actions of speech. But broadly stated, we talk about 4 of them, which are lying and using harsh words that hurts others' feelings, causing disharmony among people, or dividing people, friends against each other, and gossiping, just gossiping about all kind of stuff that leads to nothing. It's just all meaningless. So those are the 4 negative actions of speech. When we refrain from, lying, we refrain from using harsh words, we refrain from causing disharmony among friends, we refrain from gossiping, then we could say that our speech is disciplined or subdued.
Each one not same the nursing the lot of standos in Subuti. Me can tell it Jalaya with Gentirang Toya Chit and some Ponjamares. Uncle, a nay, tam unity, Robata, so you are the inner rank any pay, Yen Jalaya, you ever any around to Thomas and with that Napsin Jamares. Ane, again, never see a some Ponjamares. Again, never see a son of Matombashi. Atahana Lotas in Sanjay Yamar, Che Yamar, Devasina, David Devan Jungre, Digway Megiva Sabina, Dungin Jungres, the Tariga, Ane Jung Maresam, Sambaina, the Lota Chagur, so the Rishi Jamaris.
And then there are negativities of mind that we should avoid or we shouldn't indulge in. Of course, there are many, but we can talk about 3, main negative actions of mind. One is called covetousness, coveting for others' goods. When you see that other people have really some nice stuff or a thing, and then you wish, you just are dying like anything, I want that, I wanted that to myself. That is called coveting for others' goods. It's a negative state of mind. Of course, if you want to, have similar one and you have the money to go and buy, that's a different matter. You don't have those conditions, but yet you are dying like anything to get others things for yourself. So that is a negative state of mind. And we must also, we should not think of hurting others, harmful intention, wishing to hurt others or harm others. That's negativity. And we must not have what we call wrong views or perverted views, such as, saying that, well, enlightened beings don't exist. There are no such thing as Buddhas. What are you talking about? Or that, there's no Dharma. Well, that's just, how should I say, a dumb thing. Geshe didn't say that, just to make my point in the footnote. Or that one would say that, it doesn't matter what you do. Positive actions, bring suffering, and negative actions could bring happiness, so, it just does not matter. The law of karma is, BS. Geshe didn't say that, but to make my point. And so if we refrain from those 3 negative actions of mind, covetousness, harmful intent, and wrong views, then our mind is, to an extent, disciplined or subdued. Today, Geshe would like to stop there, and he would like to ask a question.
Oh,
you mean like I think Geshe want to say whether you have questions. I don't think he want to ask you a question.
That to a man is saying again. Yeah.
When does a delusion become a negative state of mind?
What say?
When does a delusion, say like attachment or anger, become a manifest negative state of mind?
When coming or what say?
Yeah, because we all have attachments, but they're not, say, always a negative state of mind.
This is that. That when I ran to it, you more get on the Ganga Yuber, Palanya to the Yores.
Yes. Okay, so I'm just translating what Geshe is explaining because I, couldn't hear anything. No.
You more the Ganga and the Kandachi that when that Ganga Mudu Judith and Ganga Yandushan Julia Maraba.
No.
So that's the regime, but
I think Geshe thought the question you asked was about the delusions that we have, and do all of them pop up at the same time, or something like that. And here is the answer. All of us have as many as 84,000. Well, this math is right. Don't doubt about my math at this point. 84,000 types of delusion or forms of delusion within our mind. Many times these delusions remain in a dormant form, as if they are sleeping in our mind. They are all not manifested all at the same time.
Voilà. Trying to get some of you.
Tenzin, go
Yeah.
The question was, when does a delusion become negative? Negativity.
What do you mean, like, when do delusions become negative? That makes no sense to me. Delusions are always negative.
Actual accumulated negative karma.
Oh, yeah. That's the question.
No, Geshe said he understood you.
Delusion can take in the negative, which is Rava.
And it doesn't matter what kind of a delusion, delusions are negative. But how do they arise? Is that your question?
Are we accumulating negative karma 84,000 times at each moment?
No.
He says, are we accumulating negative karma 84,000 times with each
No,
moment?
one time, no.
And when does a delusion accumulate the karmic negativity? Is that right? When it becomes a karmic negative?
There's a chance of it. That thing, degree. Koran, that you more did get on the Shawati Yorua.
No.
They can get tweaky sugar best in the Shia Maris.
The delusions do not all function all at the same time.
In a pen and this is for a paint of Shigina. And control going to Jubitani, and it's what the Carseti. Control going to Jubitani, and then the chatting Maris.
For example, when you are very angry, when anger is manifested in your mind, at that time the attachment cannot arise.
The can't go to Jubitani, and you tell me, and you don't want your tongue, so control me to you the more. You don't want the more you to opposite race.
Why? Because when you are really angry at someone, that object or that person appears to you as a very, what we call, disgusting or like a displeasure, annoying object, annoying person. So you do not see that object as being very pleasant. It's very annoying and nerve-wracking. Whereas attachment, it colors our perception of an object, and it puts a spin on the object and makes the object look like beautiful and attractive. So you see, because the two modes of the apprehension of these two delusions are so different, when you're so mad and angry, you're hating that object, that person like anything, you cannot see that person as being pleasant and beautiful and attractive.
How course not, do you understand? Because they really opposite, that's true. So, okay. Likewise, many of the same like that. So you can see, you can check yourself, okay? So now, okay. What is yours?
What do you think about the Miss Tibetan contest in India?
Liver, that's one liver. The nice one, yours. That's all? Okay.
Okay, I have two announcements to make. Number one, that today, right after the teaching, Geshe is going to spend a little bit of time with the Tibetan children and going to give them advice. And so he said, please, you can postpone your visit to him. Okay, so no visitors after the teaching. And also, next weekend is the Nyungne retreat or the fasting retreat. So you have all the information. I already announced a few times, and you can visit the website of the TDL and get the information. So it's the Nyungne retreat practice. So no teaching, but a Nyungne retreat. And now the request. An anonymous person has requested us to send our prayers and positive thoughts for Stanley Williams, who is on the death row and who is, scheduled to be, put to death on December 13th. And we also know that there are many death row inmates in the United States and in different countries. So we would like to think about them and send our positive thoughts to them. As a matter of fact, houses of prayers across the religious denominations are praying for Stanley Williams.
Shadong Gole, Jabo Don, Shadong Gabo, Sanjeton, Kala, Panditella, Tetemba, Tamba Shadon, Shatse, Lo, Omane Bim, 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 Omane Bim Tarang aning azo chuni shi tarang aning rancho chamal nyamde sho ani chue chini shi be ge zawala teni sanji tembaram bo chita jugiren de nyaba hyo temba de jawi gino be chepe tenji shi be tamba na kusi kyabe temba da tuji gino ta me me hundu yongwa hyo chue shingi sho pomo na chundi shawa na insan tun ruba de ruba tang ani jitin je kamde da yendo mente bi go ta da heni Let
us dedicate our collective merit accumulated this morning together by participating in the teaching. By the power of our collective merit, may Dharma, the source of benefits and happiness, flourish throughout the universe. May His Holiness the Dalai Lama and all other holy masters live long and be successful in fulfilling their visions benefiting sentient beings. May spiritual communities throughout the world and spiritual practitioners from all traditions remain healthy, harmonious, and be successful in fulfilling their spiritual aspirations. May this and other world environments be free of all kinds of unwanted pains and problems, and beings find peace, happiness, prosperity, and spirituality. Last but not least,